Thank you all for taking the time to join us for today's Women Alumni panel focused on our Sloan Fellows MBA program. My name's Maddie Clark, and I'm one of the members of the admissions team here at Sloan. I'm joined by some of our wonderful alumni and Joe, who's the assistant dean for the executive degree programs team here at Sloan. So I'll turn it over to Joe for today's panel.
Amazing, Maddie. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you do talking to prospective candidates and even our admitted students. So, welcome to our admitted students and to our prospective candidates. We still have one deadline. I'm excited to talk to you about the program from a women's perspective today. Let me see if I can get from the slide. It's always my biggest challenge because it just wants to play again and again. So, let me just see if I can get out of here. And then we'll do it like this. So it's really hard for me to talk about our program without speaking to our mission. We are a mission-driven program. We're a mission-driven school, and our mission is to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world and to generate ideas that advance management practice. That is extremely important to us. MIT's motto is mens et manus, so what we learn in the classroom is extremely important. Yet, if it doesn't apply and isn't practical in the real world, then we're not fulfilling our mission to making it a better place. So I hope this mission resonates as much with you as it does with me. I've been at MIT for 15 years, and it still brings me so much joy to walk by this mission and to feel this mission live and breathe in the hallways every single day. And we already talked about me, so I'm gonna do a brief intro of the Sloan Fellows program, but I know all of you are here to hear from our amazing alumni about their experience in the program, so we're going to get to them as quickly as possible. So the Sloan Fellows MBA program is a one-year full-time program. So our students take a sabbatical from their professional careers and are fully immersed on campus for an entire year. Our students earn a degree, and they can choose from either an MBA, which is a true MBA because they spend the same amount of time in classroom as our full-time two-year program, or they can earn MS in management or an MS in management of technology if they complete a thesis. Our curriculum is really focused on the science of management and using data and AI to make decisions. What makes me extremely excited is being part of a global community. You heard a lot of talk about that during the video we just shared. Our current class has 40 plus countries represented, and it makes for a very rich learning environment. You have access to resources across MIT. And while the summer has heavy core and required classes, you take 7 classes together. The fall and the spring has a lot of ability for you to choose your own and customize your own curriculum. So we're going to meet our panelists in a moment, and so I will have them introduce themselves when we get there. But before we get there, let me talk a little bit about the curriculum. The curriculum is a flexible path, right? You start with the orientation. The classroom is about learning from each other. We have a lot of opportunity for you to sort of get warmed up as you get into that curriculum, and you do some academic prep that we have required to get you ready for the classroom, as well as completing a 360-degree leadership survey. In the summer, as I just mentioned, there are 7 core classes, so there are no electives during that time, but it's really an opportunity for you to get fully immersed into the community, learning again, being in the classroom again, and learning from each other. As Kaio mentioned in the video, we create the learning teams or the teams that you work on in during the summer for greatest diversity, diversity both in cultures and background, in identity, in functional and industry expertise, and years of experience before you come in. It's also a heavy emphasis on leadership development during the summer, as well as getting you started on thinking about what's next from a career core perspective. In the fall, there's 1 core class. You take finance, but other than that, you have the ability to fully immerse within the community across Sloan and MIT, both inside and outside the classroom. You can also cross-register to Harvard if that's of interest to you. But also, if you want to hear from a variety of different senior leaders, you can do that by attending a variety of different sessions or taking a class that focuses on bringing in senior leaders across industries. In this, during this time, is what we called IAP, or the winter term. This is when I actually just had 700 students and alumni on campus Wednesday through Saturday last week, where they had the opportunity to come back and take 2-day electives. They could take up to two. We offered 22 electives across a variety of different topics. And as I mentioned, we invite our alumni back. So it's exciting. Actually, both Priscilla and Van were here for January executive electives, so they can share more about that if you're curious. And then in the spring, again, you have one core elective, and then you have a lot of different electives that you can take advantage of, similar to the fall. And then graduation is May. I promise you, this, while it is extremely intense, this program goes by in a blink of an eye. The community, and I see a lot of nodding, which is I'm glad to see that. The community, as was mentioned again, a lot in the video, is extra special in my opinion, even more so in the Sloan Fellows program. We do really believe in the mission of the school, and so you can feel how much people are committed to being change agents for the world to make it a better place, as well as how supportive and collaborative the community is. People really care about each other and want to get to know each other. We welcome in significant others and children. We understand that a lot of our students do come in with a family as part of this experience, and so it becomes a close-knit support system. There's some programming we organize, and then there's a lot of self-organized. And then the outside community stuff that our students are able to engage in, whether that is clubs or the variety of different competitions and hackathons throughout the years. The career we really see as fully embedded in your entire experience, both inside and outside the classroom. So the Sloan Fellows program have a committed group of career professionals who are there to guide them in understanding what is next for them and to help them understand where their market where they fit in the market and helping them network through that networked approach of finding their next opportunity, which is what mid-career professionals really are required to do. We do encourage our students to think about how the academics fit into what they want to do next, and then combine that with clubs, conferences, and the MIT community as they really build out their skills and network for their next exciting thing that they want to do. So we really think about MIT as a nation. We have 31 plus MIT Sloan alumni from 90 plus countries and 148,000 MIT alumni across the world with a variety of different clubs. So our students and alums are able to engage in MIT beyond just the year that they are here. Especially this time of year, my students start getting a little sad because the program is ending in a few months and feel like it's gone really fast so far. And what I tell them is an invitation to be a part of MIT for the Sloan Fellows MBA program is an invitation to be part of MIT for life. And so this is one way to stay engaged with MIT through the alumni network. But like I just said, January executive electives, not to mention all the other ways that our students can get involved with MIT through the faculty and the variety of different centers and conferences and so forth. The class size of the 2026, this is just like an overarching demographics of my current class. There are 116 of them with 42 countries represented. Average years of experience is 14. And that's, while I'm showing this demographic for the class of 26 that's graduating this year, let me say that this is very standard and very similar to year over year, the amount of the demographics of previous years. So it's very consistent. So with that, I want to open it up to the panel, and I will let Van introduce herself first. So what I want the panelists to do is to introduce themselves. They're going to give a bit of a background on who they were before they came to Sloan. Why did they choose MIT Sloan? What sort of was the impetus of them feeling like an MBA was the right thing for them? And then what they're doing now. Van, do you want to start?
Sure. Thank you so much, Joe. So my name is Van. I'm originally from Vietnam. I joined the Sloan Fellows MBA program in 2018. So I'm the batch of 2019. I worked in 9 years as a chemical engineer, working in the chemical, home personal care across France, the Netherlands, Japan, and Singapore before coming to MIT. Currently, I work in open innovation for L'Oreal, which is the world's largest beauty company in the world. And I was the director of open innovation in Asia. And since last October, I moved to the US, still working for L'Oreal as an independent consultant in open innovation, but also having my own consulting firm, Mira Innovation, because I still want to, my passion really lies in the scaling technologies for commercializable products at the service of the end customer. So for me, MIT was a very, very natural choice because of the community and ecosystem that MIT is able to offer. Exactly what Joe has mentioned in the presentation. I am a scientist and engineer at heart, so it was a very natural choice. Also, because we are a female community here, I had a daughter at that time, so the 1 year program was perfect for me to focus on myself, but also while spending time with my family.
Thank you so much, man. Seema, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Seema. My background, I'm Sloan Fellow 23. My background is a bit unconventional. I started off as a computer science, graduating computer science from Columbia University. Then I did consulting, I did IT, and then finally ended up in the mining industry. And I got to a point where I was really frustrated with where I was in the mining industry, and I didn't feel that I was having the impact that I wanted to have. And so I started looking for different programs that offered an MBA as well as other types of programs to explore what would be the right path for me to be able to not only find my next step and true path, but also something that was supportive to me. I had two young kids at the time living in Singapore. And so a lot of variables to be taken into consideration. Obviously, MIT is an amazing platform for and has different programs as well to decide from. Sloan Fellows made the most sense to me. It was a 1 year MBA, so it was just enough time. It had the exposure that I was looking for to the school, the university, and all the professors. At the same time, it gave me enough options to try different electives that were all meaningful and exciting so that I could really explore and take this time for myself. So I ended up traveling on my own. My kids were back home with my husband, really supportive family there. And I had an incredible experience. So after Sloan Fellows, I did like a double pivot, if you want to think of it that way. So not only did I pivot into sustainability and clean tech, but I also I was originally thinking of going into venture capital, but I ended up starting my own company instead in the clean tech space, which is extremely difficult given that I didn't have that original background to begin with. And I think it would have been impossible without doing an MBA from MIT. I coincidentally also started the company with one of the senior lecturers at MIT, which is also unheard of. But that just shows how welcoming and inviting not only the faculty are, but how having an MBA from MIT can really shape your future in a way that is, the way you want it to be. So I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing, Seema. And before I let Priscilla say something, I just want to plug again, if you have questions for the panelists or for me, please ask questions, preferably in the Q&A, but if you ask them in the chat, I will pick them up, or Maddie and I will pick them up there too. Priscilla, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So I am Priscilla Clark. I'm from the SFMBA class of 2025, so recently graduated in May. And I think all of our panelists here have a kind of a commonality where we're kind of techies, and we have that really technical background. So I graduated with my undergrad in management information systems, started my career similar to Seema in consulting, and worked on Wall Street for a little bit in data analytics. And after my most recent role before coming back to Sloan was at Coinbase, where I was doing sanctions technology. And I was most interested in the program. I had wanted to do an MBA essentially my whole career. And I remember when I was probably 5 years out, it just didn't make sense from an opportunity cost at the time. So I still wanted that full time on the ground. You're meeting people every day. You're really immersed. And I think that that's what's so amazing about this format. And what really drew me to the fellows program is that it's condensed. So you're not taking all the opportunity cost of being out of the workforce for 2 whole years, but you're still getting that kind of traditional MBA experience. So that, and then also I think the others I've already mentioned is just the flexibility with the electives, which we can get into in much greater detail. I really wanted to be able to build my own program and have essentially the most technical MBA that you could possibly have. So having not only the electives within the Sloan ecosystem, but also the MIT greater ecosystem has been great. And I can talk a little bit more later about the courses, or feel free to reach out to me afterwards. But after those connections that I've made across campus outside of Sloan, since May, I've been working on a research project with one of my MIT professors, going really, really deep on the intersection of blockchain and generative AI. So we've been building out an agent pipeline for essentially back office derivatives workflows that are then put on chain. So super technical work that came out of the relationships in the community from Sloan Fellows. And then as that's kind of winding down, looking forward to next steps.
Thank you, Priscilla. Um, I guess the one thing I would add is that while we have three amazing women who have quite a bit of technical background, one of the things I should emphasize is that a lot of the backgrounds that people are coming in on is very diverse, and that we do also have people who come from much more liberal arts background. I guess the piece I will say is that everyone is comfortable with quant or understand the importance of using data in making decisions and are not afraid of that, or sort of are even excited about that. I just came from a meeting this morning where we talked about nerd pride. We are all very proud of being a little nerdy and sort of wanting to get our hands dirty and understanding how things work. And with the recognition that tech is the future and it is here to stay, and tech is evolving quickly. And so being at a management school that's so close to the tech university is critical in that. One of the questions that came in was around the MOT degree and what do you have to study? So again, it's a choice between whether you want an MBA or one of these MS degrees. And the MS degree in management of technology, what you have to do is a thesis, which requires quite a bit of research. And the research then needs to be in technology, which a faculty member would sign off on being in technology, and then you would earn that degree. There's also a question about building your startup while doing the program. Do any of you want to speak to that? I know the quick answer is yes, it's possible, not just with the coursework, but also with sort of outside of classes. But do any of you want to speak a little bit to that? Or Van, I see you took yourself
Yeah,
off.
sure. I'll be happy to take these questions. Although now I'm in a corporate, but like Gupta, I had or Seema, I'm sorry, Seema, right? I had a double also pivot. But when in MIT, I really took on. It's not even I would say it's possible and even encouraged to build your startup while doing the program. I did participate a lot in the MIT community, and during my time at MIT, my husband was a professor at the university in Singapore, so we leveraged a lot the MIT entrepreneurship ecosystem to spin off his research in robotics into a startups. So we founded a company called Eureka Robotics at my time in MIT, and the program that I used were Sandbox, VMS, which is the Venture Mentoring Services, if I remember correctly, and then the ILP, which is the Industrial License Program. And here I am today. The reason why we moved to the US is because the company has expanded, and we are now opening our branch in the US and entering into the US market. So I would really encourage you to think about your startups to even work very intensely on it during the program.
Yeah, and if I could add, um, I had no intention of starting a company when I was at Sloan. But what I saw is that a lot of people, the benefit of even like flirting with the idea of starting a company at MIT is that you're going to get really good feedback from a lot of really smart people. And if you've ever even thought of it, try it, right? Like get out of your comfort zone. There's so many startup competitions. There's even one where you can find your own co-founder. So there's a lot of networking that happens. As we all mentioned, the professors here are all working on different projects themselves. They're very entrepreneurial. So it's just a very entrepreneurial environment. I know some people are like, well, I want to do it, but I don't know. And I would just say, like, if it's on your mind, just explore it, think about it. No matter what comes out of it, you'll get a great experience.
Thank you. One of the questions, and please don't be worried, I'm going to get your questions answered, but I will take them in an order that sort of flows in the conversation. So please continue asking your questions. I see a lot of them are coming in through chat. One of the questions that I think sort of fits a little bit in what we're just talking about is recognition that the MIT ecosystem is vast. There's a lot of various research and labs and variety of different groups. Any tips on how to orient around them during the very short SFMBA timeline?
Yeah, I'll jump in there and speak to my experience. So in the summer, as Joe kind of mentioned, is when you'll take your core with your SFMBA classmates. And my suggestion is really take that time where a lot of the rest of the campus is kind of quieter to really focus in on what is your intention and what do you want to get out of the program. And because this is going to be while the coursework, and I know we'll probably get to the question about pace, but while the coursework is intense during the summer, you don't have all of the candy store of so many of the other groups and speakers and things that will come up in the fall. So make sure when the fall semester starts, you know kind of exactly which clubs and things you want to be involved in so you can hit the ground running. And then my other like big piece of advice is, you know, when you're thinking about that, try to be as specific as possible. So that you can say, okay, I want to look at AI, but in what specific area? Because there is so many different things. Try to narrow down. And I know that the summer's not a huge time to figure that out, but the more prepared you can be going into the fall of what exactly you're going to do and how you're going to execute that, the more you're going to get done in that short time.
Yeah, and I would also say that summer period is really great to network with your fellow Sloan Fellows because it's the only class that's officially there. So enjoy that time. But a lot of the professors and a lot of the groups are not active. So I think that if you want to get that full exposure to what is available, since you guys are already very proactive in terms of being part of this call, I would reach out to some of the current students right now so you can do that research and know specifically what you're looking for. Because what I found was during the summer, like the school is pretty much really empty. And so you don't really get to know, or you have to work that much harder to figure out, okay, what are the clubs? Can I talk to someone there? Or what are the classes that are available? Because there's different classes that are available in different semesters. Teachers are like professors are on break, so they're not really responding. But take advantage of your MIT email address. People respond to that really fast and really well. So do your research now if possible.
I think that's some really sound advice, especially given that we have already admitted students on here who have the opportunity to have their MIT email address right now. And as soon as they do their Kerberos, just to do a plug on doing some of your administrative stuff, and that allows you to really start that networking. And I will say that often I get the question of how do I do this faster, sooner, better? And my first advice is actually just go on MIT's website and start looking for things there. And, it's always impressive to me to see like how quickly people will respond to you. And sometimes it's not always going to be like the principal investigator or the, biggest named person, but, figuring out who else, what postdoc, what are some of the other people that are involved in that lab or sort of surrounding it or who the admin is to get connected can work even before you set foot on campus. But I think the advice of figuring out what's important to you, what are your goals, and then really pursuing those and thinking about that hard during the summer is some really, really great advice. Priscilla, I know you have some perspective on the pace of the program. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I loved the pace. I think I've always been kind of like the studious, like academic, like throw all the papers and stuff at me. But more than that, I would say going back to the video, like the Sloanies helping Sloanies thing, especially in the summer, like your learning team, like really use those resources, like your specific learning team, you're going to be able to work collectively. And like the WhatsApp groups and all of the wider SFMBA community is going to be there to support you. So it's certainly not oh, I need to, figure out all of the academic stuff myself. If you're having an issue with a particular topic in class, like there is probably, 50 people that will be willing to spend an hour with you like immediately to kind of help tutor you up. So it's almost like you have a group of 100 other tutors, and given the diversity of the class, like there's an expert in everything. So you find that person and like you really have the best of the best of a teaching team within your classmates.
Thank you, Priscilla. That's a really good point. Van or Seema, either of you want to talk about the intensity and condensedness of the program?
Sure. So definitely I was looking back into my iPhones and I think my average sleeping time during the Sloan Fellows World program were around 5 hours per night. And definitely I told it's been quite some times already, but I hearing Priscilla reminds me very much on the amazing teamwork resources and also different um like I would say I remember during our commencement, there was one sentence by the dean who was saying, "Enjoy, because this is the last day where so many people will be loving you," and that's really true because during the program, you see the best side of people who could surround you, generosity, sharing. I, for example, didn't know anything about finance when I stepped into the program. And now I see myself enjoying and doing spreadsheets and doing forecast, DCF models, etc., because I had some of the best CFOs in the class. And this is the beauty of the program. Like you really explore yourself. You would even be surprised of what you can do thanks to the help of your peers.
And if
Wonderful.
I if I
Yeah,
can
go
just
ahead,
add to
Seema.
that, I would say that the pace is just on point with both what Priscilla and Van said, but I think the most important thing that I would want to advise is um don't fall back, right? Like keep up with what's going on because as soon as you miss something, like it will start adding up really fast. So you just want to keep the pace, like keep up with everything that's happening. Reach out to as many people as early as possible. So you're not like waiting till the last minute. Don't feel like you're being a burden on anyone or you feel uncomfortable sort of asking questions. Do that. And then with the programs and all the different options, it is easy to get overwhelmed. And, everyone's like, I just have 1 year. I want to get the most out of it. I want to get as many degrees. I want a thesis. I want this. I want that, right? So just like be comfortable with where your sort of personal life manages with your work, because a lot of people are coming in with families. So just be realistic, and don't fall behind, right? That's just you never want to be in that position.
And I would say that as much as we have some amazing classmates, and I had someone approach me today, or sorry, this year from the current class, sort of really celebrating one of their classmates because he would do like actual review sessions with the entire class. I think every year there's a student who's doing that or multiple students who are doing that. But every course also has teaching assistants who do recitations where they're sort of reviewing the content that was in the classroom and answering questions. So there are a lot of resources for students as the pace, as you're right, it is condensed and it is intense. One of the other questions that came in, I want to make sure we answer it, is around sort of talking about doing the program while being a mom, and is it realistic, especially Van, for you who had your daughter with you in the program. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So my situation was very similar to Sima actually, and I think that also answered one of the questions from Dinio on the disparity, maybe.
Yeah.
The fact that we are a little bit older compared to 2 years MBA program is that many of us come with kids. For me, I actually my daughter was in Singapore with my husband, so I flew back many times. They also came once, and the fact that the program was 1 year, very condensed, but with real break, was very helpful. I know that some other of my classmates, many of them came with their significant others and their kids, and I cannot, I mean, praise enough the role of the SO, the significant others, in ensuring that you have the best experience. Because definitely it is challenging, but the community of SOs and the kids is so embedded in the program that actually they are not a separate part, they are a whole part of the program. So this is the beauty, the real beauty of the Sloan Fellow program.
Thank you, Van. And I will add and say that it is completely possible. I've had single mothers also do this program before. Is it easy? No. Do they need support? Absolutely. Do we try to do everything we can from our end to make it possible? 100%. And again, it gets back to how amazing the cohort is and how supportive the cohort is and willing to adjust for the variety of different family situations. I'll speak to there are a couple questions here that I can answer, and then given the time, I think it's time to start getting to a close really quickly, unfortunately. But the disparity in the class are the systemic reasons why there's not parity in a variety of different places, whether it's the workforce or wherever you want to see it, right? It is women have more responsibilities and have had more barriers to getting where they want to in their careers. And while everyone on this call, and certainly myself, are big proponents of women's advancement, and we still aren't at 50-50, it is where I would love to see the program at one point in time, and we will continue to strive towards that. Is it possible to work full time while pursuing the MBA? I would recommend thinking about the EMBA program if you want to work full time. That program is designed for working full time. The Sloan Fellows program, as we've already said, is fully immersive for 1 year. Have I seen students do some work, not full time? I have. Do I think that they miss out from the experience and miss out from the value of everything that they're doing? I do think that that is the case. So I would not recommend working full time and doing the Sloan Fellows program. To close us out, I would love for the three of you to talk a little bit about thinking about the ROI and anything around finance. We saw that question from Anne Marie come in, but also maybe one piece of advice or your favorite part of the program, and then we'll close it out. Priscilla, do you want to start? We'll do it backwards this time.
Yeah. So I guess quick answer to the ROI financing. I did self-finance, but I know that like there's a variety of some company sponsorships and then people that have been able to find financing elsewhere. So I think you should, there's lots of different options there. As far as my number one piece of advice, this kind of goes back to what I mentioned of like being really focused. It also goes, it's kind of a solution a little bit to what I think is this fast pace, is pick classes that build upon each other
Mm.
and that somewhat overlap in the sense that you're becoming a master of a particular area. There's such a draw to do lots of different things, but the way that I looked at the program is I want to learn something in such depth that I could go back and teach it when I finish the program. So instead of being, a jack of all trades, master of none, if you go in, you say, I want to be really deep in analytics, or I want to be really deep in the, whatever subject matter, really the entrepreneurship ecosystem, whatever it is, you're going to benefit off of things building on top of each other. And you're going to be able to tie connections and say, oh, I talked about this in this class, and then here it's relevant over here in this space. And then lastly, talk too long. The action lab, make sure you take advantage. We didn't talk about that too much. Got the opportunity to do the first ever generative AI action lab. As a Sloan Fellow, you will have more work experience than some of the two-year MBAs, but it's still good to be able to get in with a real company and understand what problems they're having, especially with some of these emerging technologies. So, yeah.
Great, Seema.
So thank you, Priscilla, for that perspective. I think maybe I'll give something slightly different, just so that people have a variety here. What I personally chose to focus on was leadership. And this is like a really important component of the Sloan Fellow MBA program. And I think the process in which they do this development work with the executive leadership, various different classes that also cover this as well, I thought was the most like long-term ROI that I got out of it, because the thing about MIT is that you can take so many classes and there's so much depth in everything that you do. So, but when you're surrounded by so many smart people, getting that feedback in terms of who you are and how you present yourself and the way you come off, like just building that confidence is something that I really prize in my overall experience. And that's one thing that when you're doing a part-time program or when you're doing sort of even a two-year MBA program, you're not really getting that much exposure to your mid-career. You've done a bunch of experience, but now you're really trying to jump forward. So I would spend like a lot of time just reflecting and doing all those exercises, thinking deep about yourself, where you want to be, and yeah, that would be my key takeaway.
So for me, to respond to the questions on scholarship, one thing that I've learned is that you have to ask for everything. If you don't ask, you're never going to get it. So actually emailed. I think at that time there was one person responsible for scholarships, and there was a list, and I went through most of them. And also I look for scholarship outside as well. So I'm finally managed to get two scholarship that covers quite a lot of of the tuitions. And then to respond to the questions on my takeaway, I think many things have been said. For me, because I really wanted to get into the consumer industry. For me, what really helped me was that MIT really helped me build and tell my story. So thanks to the action labs, to all the projects, I think there's something called also, I can't remember, something learning in AIP that you do. At that time I did with Professor Duncan, that really helped me land my job in L'Oreal, because of all the projects, all the knowledge that I had on the new technologies, etc. So my takeaway would be, take time to really think about what you want. Do not do not fall into FOMO. I think focus on what you really want for you and not what other wants, and then build the story around it.
Well, thank you so much, Priscilla, Seema, Van. Really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience with our candidates and our admitted students. Thank you to our candidates and admitted students for coming and spending some time and learning more about the program. My piece of advice to all of you, it gets a little bit also to the gender disparity question, which is if you are here, you are already thinking about wanting to do more, that you feel like you have a need for more education to have a bigger impact. And so my recommendation is to just go for it, because it is so easy to feel like you may not be good enough, you can't do it, you can't do the math. MIT from afar feels like this very difficult thing to get into, and I know that women tend to think that they need to check every single box and that it is easier for us to have the imposter thoughts. And I just want to encourage you to bet on yourself and to go for it. And so, again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you again to the panelists. Maddie, thank you for all the encouragement you do of our candidates. And we have one final application deadline coming up in a couple of weeks, and I hope to read many of your applications. Thank you so much. Have a great day.